Okay. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Governor. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Governor.
Joe. Okay. Well, good morning. Welcome to our March 24th, 2021 Governor and Executive Council meeting. Before we start, just as a reminder for anyone who is joining us in person, please be sure to silence your cell phones. Unfortunately, we do not have any proclamations or musical guests as of yet, but my sense is hopefully in the short term, as we get through vaccinations and as we come through COVID in the next few weeks and few months, the council should start thinking about getting back to normal like everybody else, which I think would be pretty good. Good morning, Councilor Wheeler.
Good morning.
You're looking fit and fiddle.
Thank you, Governor.
Feeling good?
Great to be back.
Great. Excellent. So with that, if you all join me, I'm going to just start with a small prayer to lead us off, and then we'll have the pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day you've made. We ask for your wisdom and guidance as we serve the citizens of New Hampshire. Help us to be examples of your love and grace to those around us today. In the name of our Lord, amen. Now, if you'll join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. So moving forward, I will officially call the meeting of the Governor and Executive Council to order. All the councilors are joining us today, but we do also have members of the public and a few of the commissioners joining us by phone, so we are open telephonically. Is Fallon joining us? Courtney. Oh, thank you. Okay, so we'll have Courtney on there as we may need to open the line for various commissioners. I begin by asking from the Executive Council a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the March 3rd, 2021 Governor and Executive Council meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion or changes to those meeting minutes from March 3rd? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, the meeting minutes are approved. Next, from the Office of the Secretary of State, we have our civil commissions. Could I please have a motion to confirm the list of civil commissions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the list, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The list of civil commissions is approved. Are there any nominations to place on the list of civil commissions? Councilor Kenny.
Thank you, Governor. I have a lady from Lebanon, Melissa Trezeria. It's Trzeziar. There's another word.
Any additional names to put onto the list? Okay, with that, the matter of civil commissions is concluded. We do have some resignations, quite a few to accept today. Is this right? This guy? Is this guy? Wow. Okay. And bear with me. Is this? Okay. So from the Board of Natural Scientists, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Raymond Lobdell of Landac?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of accepting the resignation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the resignation is accepted. As the Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Transportation, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Chris Wozchuk of North Andover, Mass?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The resignation of Ms. Wozchuk is accepted. From the Fish and Game Commission, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Christina Luby of Nottingham?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Ms. Luby's resignation is accepted. As the justice as a justice of the New Hampshire Circuit Court, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Julian Introcaso of Manchester?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Judge Introcaso's resignation is accepted. As a justice from the New Hampshire Circuit Court, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Susan Carbon of Chichester?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Judge Carbon's resignation is accepted. From the New Hampshire Commission of Human Rights, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Cheryl Shirley of Holderness?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Shirley's resignation is accepted. From the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Roy Baldwin of Jaffrey?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
Total number of board members, seeing 4 departing at the same time, I'm just concerned.
No, great point.
Yes, thank you for your question, Counselor. So part of the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Trustees, they had a number of members that, due to employment, Mr. Baldwin, for example, moved out of state. So a number of their members, just for various reasons, can no longer serve. So they kind of did some cleanup, and I think COVID has kind of delayed that process of getting their resignations to us. But we do have a couple of members that we're going to be nominating today as well.
Great, thank you.
You know, they feel like they have enough for a quorum.
They do, yes.
Short-term.
They'll have no quorum issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
But yeah, folks, you know, the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors is a terrific board. So, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of accepting the resignation of Mr. Baldwin, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Baldwin's resignation is accepted. From the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors, could I also have a motion to accept the resignation of Michael Costello of Dover?
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Mr. Costello's resignation is accepted. From the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Jenna Hartley Welch of Pembroke?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Ms. Welch's, Jenna Hartley Welch's resignation is accepted. And from the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors, could I please have a motion to accept the resignation of Alison McLean of New London?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alison's resignation is accepted. And that concludes our resignations. Obviously, and just as a reminder, there were a lot of resignations today, but if there's ever any questions about positions or boards, if you know people, are you volunteering for a board? Councilor Kenny.
All right, so after that round, thank you. I just had a question. Chris Wasstruck is obviously leaving a very important position in the Department of Transportation and has done a lot of great work over the years. So are we still in a hiring freeze, and can we replace his position?
The answer is no, we're not in a hiring freeze. Departments have been up and been able to hire very freely for the last couple of months. As you know, government takes a little time, so a lot of folks I think will be coming into their new positions soon. And what was the second question?
Well, in other words,
Yeah, we can replace it,
we'll
yeah.
have to put a search out for his current
Yeah,
position.
it's a big position. It's a very big job. Chris has been right on the front lines of the 10-year highway plan especially, and obviously that's a big deal for the council. He knows a lot of the ins and outs. He's got a good team over there.
Yeah.
But Bill Cass and obviously the commissioner are still there. They've been right on the front lines of it as well. So, but yeah, big shoes to fill. So,
Thank you.
okay. But yeah, if there's any other boards or folks in your districts or anything that want to serve, just let Jonathan know. He's been keeping, I think, a great list, and whether it's the volunteer board, which had a few resignations today, or judges, or whatever it might be, just let us know. Okay, we do have some confirmations to accept today. Could we begin by having a motion to confirm Dennis Diesel of Boston, Mass. as the Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Environmental Services?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? And Mr. Diesel is confirmed. Easy. Mr. Diesel's now in the running for one of the coolest names in government. Dennis Diesel. Sounds like a guy that gets it done. Could I now please have a motion to confirm Grant Nichols of Dover as the Assistant Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Nichols is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm John Formella of Portsmouth as the Attorney General for the Department of Justice?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Councilor Warrington, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Governor. For more than 20 years as an attorney, I represented many clients in matters before the New Hampshire Attorney General's office. My respect and even reverence for that office is immense. It is staffed with dedicated and committed professionals who work tirelessly for justice in our state. Our Attorney General's office is responsible for the investigation and prosecution of civil and criminal cases across our state. The decisions made by that office directly impact the lives, liberty, and livelihoods of our citizens. It is, without question, one of the most important state appointments that comes before the Executive Council. The Executive Council is charged with, at a minimum, ensuring that the candidates to lead our important state agencies have the basic qualifications for the position to which they are appointed, and I take that responsibility seriously. The ideal candidate for Attorney General will have deep experience in litigation, preferably both criminal and civil, demonstrated management skills, and will be free from undue influence from the powerful political pressures that will undeniably come to bear. Attorney John Formella is a bright, talented, hardworking, and truly likable young lawyer who has served admirably as Governor's Counsel these past 4 years. Before that, he worked for 4 years as an associate in a law firm handling non-litigation matters. He has no relevant courtroom experience. He has never handled a trial, written the most basic trial motions, or even taken a deposition. By his own testimony, Attorney Formella will be relying on the attorneys working in the Attorney General's office to teach him the basics. I have no doubt that the consummate professionals in that office will do that to the best of their ability. But the role of the Attorney General is no place for an on-the-job trainee. The Attorney General should be the one providing direction and guidance to that office, and should be the one making the most difficult decisions in the most complex legal matters. I believe there are many governmental positions for which Attorney Formella is highly qualified. Unfortunately, I do not believe the position of Attorney General is one of them. Accordingly, despite my high personal regard for Attorney Formella, I cannot support his nomination.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councilor Kenny?
Thank you, Governor. I kind of look at this nomination as the glass that's half full or half empty. I think it's 3/4 of the way full, and John Formella is an outstanding nominee. And I'd like to quote something, or paraphrasing Chief Justice Lynn, it's not what he doesn't know, but it's what he has the capability of learning. And that to me is just as important as someone who thinks who knows it all, who's going to go into the Attorney General's office. I need someone, a man of character, someone of principle, someone who's hardworking, and who's not only going to work for us on the Executive Council, but is also going to work for the people of New Hampshire, which is ultimately the utmost important thing. We have seen many critical issues in the state, such as vaccine registration. We've seen, obviously, the pandemic and how that's impacted the public. We've seen a lot of cases with regards to election law. We've seen a lot of criminal cases that have gone before the state. But he's got the temperament. He's got the wherewithal to understand how state government works, and he can call up someone to get answers that's going to help the people of New Hampshire. I've been highly impressed with him in his response to my request from a constituent level. And in District 1, which is the largest district geographically in the state of New Hampshire, I need someone that I can go to get answers for my people on the ground. And while I appreciate my colleague and her sentiments of him being inexperienced and not having the criminal prosecution experience, I need someone that I know that is of New Hampshire, who's for New Hampshire, is going to work for the people of New Hampshire. So my highest regard is for Jonathan Miller, and I will be voting for him.
Great, thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Adding to Councillor Kenny's point about having an Attorney General who's going to work for the people of New Hampshire, I can verify, and I will speak proudly of Attorney General to be Formella's record in District 3. When one of my municipalities had a horrific fire on the scale of a 3-alarm blaze in which 50 constituents were left homeless, he went into action for those people. Commissioner Kavadas as well. Nothing but the utmost respect for the response and the support that he brought to the citizens of Raymond.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Noting the no vote from Councillor Wallington, John Miller is approved. Please have a motion to confirm Gary Lanetta of Hampton as the Director of the Division of Procurement and Support Services for the Department of Administrative Services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Lanetta is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Karen Radamatki from Bow as the Director of the Division of Plant and Property for the Department of Environmental Services?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, Karen is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Arthur Baudry of Manchester to the Compensation Appeals Board?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Arthur Baudry is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Brent Lemire of Litchfield to the Compensation Appeals Board?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Lemire is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Mary Ann Ashcroft of Derry to the Compensation Appeals Board?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Mary Ann Ashcroft is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Constance Roy Moreno of Wolfboro to the Compensation Appeals Board?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Constance is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Patrick Ryan of Swansea as a justice to the New Hampshire Circuit Court?
So moved.
Second.
Sorry. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Council Warmington.
I would just like to say, Governor, what an excellent nominee this is. A very experienced practitioner, highly capable of serving in the position for which he's nominated, and it's a pleasure for me to cast my vote in support of Patrick Ryan.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
I'm in agreement. It was just an absolute pleasure to meet him, and he can hit the ground running, so to speak, and help us with that backlog
Great.
in Circuit Court. A great choice.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of Mr. Ryan, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Patrick Ryan is confirmed. Very good. Could I now please have a motion to confirm Ellen Joseph of Merrimack as a justice to the New Hampshire Circuit Court?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Council Warmington.
Yes, Governor, again, I would like to say this is an excellent nomination. Ellen Joseph brings to the bench many, many years of experience, and she will be an excellent judge. And I'm happy to cast my vote in support of her.
Great. Thank you. Further discussion. Councilor Kenny?
I just wanted to say that both candidates were, outstanding, and with regards to Ellen Joseph, She brings a lot of experience with regards to the family law issues, which is a critical need in our court system. So, and I noticed Patrick Ryan had spent some time up in Woodsville as well, so maybe he can journey back up to Littleton for some work up there. But Ellen Joseph, very impressed with her family, her background, and she admitted right up front that she has other areas of the law that she needs to work on. But I think she's got the capacity to be a really good judge.
Great. Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Joseph is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Ken Merrifield of Franklin to the New Hampshire Retirement System Board of Trustees?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Merrifield is confirmed. Could I please have a motion to confirm Jennifer Rosen of Guilford to the Physical Therapy Governing Board?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, Ms. Rosen is confirmed. And that concludes our confirmations for today's meeting. I have a few nominations to read into the record this week. To the Advisory Council on Workers' Compensation, I nominate Marianne Mitchell of Crookston. To the Board of Accountancy, I nominate Charles Powell of Warner. To the Board of Home Inspectors, I nominate Gregory Davis of Newmarket and Joseph Griffin of Goffstown. To the Board of Nursing, I nominate Matthew Kitsis of Bow. To the Occupational Therapy Governing Board, I nominate Tracy Johnson of Nashville. To the New Hampshire Motor Vehicle Industry Board Services, I nominate Don Brabant of Portsmouth. As a justice to the New Hampshire Superior Court, I nominate Patricia Conway of Salem. As a per diem justice to the New Hampshire Circuit Court, I nominate Bradley Lone of Portsmouth. To the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors, I nominate Colby Chapu of Concord, Connor Jennings of Manchester, and Greg Stevens of Manchester. And that concludes the nominations for today. Moving on, we have our consent calendar agenda. Could I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar agenda?
Second?
Is there any questions or request to remove an item for further discussion from the consent calendar? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the consent calendar as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the items on the consent calendar are approved. We're moving right on to our regular agenda. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 6, 7, and 8 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Economic and Housing Stability.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on items 6, 7, or 8? Councilor Guests.
Thank you, Governor. Number 6,
The commissioners here with us today.
it looks like the date is June 30th of 2021 to July 2021, and that's an increase of $200,000 per month.
This is a repeat contract from last council meeting. So Chris Santnello is on the phone and she can speak to that. I think she's reached out to many of the councilors.
Hi, good morning. This is Chris Santnello. Can you please repeat the question? I was getting on the call and I didn't hear the full question.
The item has from, I know we talked about it, from June 20th, 21 to July 31st, 2021. And we said it was a retroactive, but I don't see that as saying it's a retroactive agreement. Or what the date, the start date is.
So, thank you for the question. Yes, it is retroactive back to July 1st of this year. So July 1st, and then it goes until July 31st, 2021. So we went back retroactive and added a month to the contract.
So it's a forward-looking amendment on an old contract. So it's really not retroactive spending, per se.
No, it's supposed to be, is it supposed to be July 1 of 2020, Chris?
Yes, it is.
So there's an error on the GNC.
So we didn't fix it from the last time.
Yeah, it does say it's retroactive, and then it says, and it extends it to July 31st, 2021.
Yes, but it says its completion date from June 30th, 2021 to July 31st, 2021.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. It's moving the completion date. It's not indicating the contract date.
Right.
I think
Oh,
it almost looks like the contract date is June to July,
Right.
but it's actually just bumping the completion date 1 month.
Right.
So it's a little bit, that's all. I think technically it might be correct, but it sounds like it's a 1 month
With a
contract.
30% increase in
Yeah,
price.
right.
So,
Yeah, please don't believe me, we've been working on this one nonstop,
so the actual contract term is from June 1, it's retroactive from July 1 of 2020, and the completion date is being moved from June 30th to July 31st.
correct.
So if I may, if you don't mind, Councilor Gatzis, is there an explanation for why the first 12 months of the contract cost $450,000 and the last month will cost $200,000? It seems like a lot of money for the last 30 days, yeah. I don't understand that.
No, we actually added all of that money, and it goes back to the July 1st start date, because we actually added a couple of different contracts to this contract. We got 3 different HUD awards, and this is the contract that we kept. HUD was late, we kept on adding, and so we corrected it and added all of that money, but it's back to July 1st.
And so were the services that were added were being rendered from July 1 of 2020?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense now.
And they weren't getting paid for
Yeah.
it until now?
Yes, that's correct. Many of our vendors, often when you see a retroactive contract, they do not get paid for their services while they are not in contract. So many of our vendors end up in that situation. And this was a delay from the federal government giving us the awards.
Okay.
Further discussion on any of these items? 6,
I do.
7, or later?
I just have an off-agenda question for the Commissioner. We have, as of last report, 56 adults and 33 children boarding in emergency rooms. And I'm just wondering if you would be able to make a presentation to the council about the plans for resolving that. I mean, we are really in an emergency here.
You want me to present today?
Next time.
Oh, next time.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, I can bring my team from New Hampshire Hospital and Division of Behavioral Health and present a presentation of all of the RFPs that are currently out, the ones being awarded, and the short-term fixes that we have in place.
Thank you.
Maybe a little bit on the history too.
On the history,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, this is,
10 years.
oh, yeah.
Yes, 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Further discussion on any of these items? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of items 6, 7, and 8, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Now is for a motion to adopt agenda item 9 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Office of the Commissioner.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of item 9, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 10 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Office of Medicaid Services.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Governor, I think that, I know I asked.
Henry is here.
There he is.
Come on up, Henry.
doesn't have anything to do with the amount of, good morning, the claims. That's my biggest concern. The number of claims and how they reflect to what they were in 20 versus what they are today. Because I know the last time we were in here, there was an awful lot of money that came back. And I want to make sure that we hold on to our money and not prepay expenses when they're not due.
Thank you for the question. I think you're referring to the managed care report that I've been providing to the council to keep them fresh. I had, based on our conversation, I had a conversation this morning before this meeting with the person who produces data, and we'll produce a report, an additional page to our report that I can get at what you're trying to look at, which is the number of claims as opposed to just looking at the average claim or the per capita use rate. So I'm going to put something together and run it by you, make sure it's meeting your needs.
Because we know that people are not getting services anywhere during this COVID situation. Whether it's in the nursing home or whether it's in the hospital or whether anything else. I think there's going to be an awful lot of money available, Governor. So when you look at your budget, you should take that into consideration. Because even on the health care side, people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing because you're worried about COVID. So I think you're going to find that there's an awful lot of money left.
I'll let Chuck Morse know. He's got that ball right.
So on that line of questioning, the long-term care facilities and, this population, what has been the status of the long-term care facility, much like the Soldiers Home, can they replenish, residents, or are they at freeze, or how is that calculated into this?
So in terms of the agreement before you, it relates to the county cap and the non-federal share. And for nursing facilities, that the way the legislature budgets for the nursing facilities, there's an account called a 504 account. If there's unspent money at the end of the year, that money is paid out to the nursing facilities based on the percent that they utilize in terms of claims.
Right. And when I'm looking at these numbers here, of all the various counties and their amounts, can I draw a picture? Because COAS, for instance, is actually, there's more money contributed to COAS than, say, Carroll. And COAS has fewer population in Carroll. So can you draw a picture of these numbers here?
Sure. I think part of it may be related to the demographics, the age of COAS County. And COAS has 2 nursing facilities as opposed to some counties only have 1 county nursing facility. And it may also reflect the infrastructure that's available in the North Country with respect to home and community-based care that is a little higher level of institutionalization there. But if you're interested offline, I can give you some of the statistics behind that.
Okay. No, I just, I see numbers and I like to draw pictures of those numbers. So, thank you.
Further discussion, Councilor Warman?
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't have a question about item number 10, but following up on the conversation that you were having with Councilor Gatsas, when we did the Medicaid managed care amendment, we approved that at our January meeting. You predicted $37 million in savings based on a lower than expected in Medicaid enrollment number. You had originally predicted 215,000, and you were down at around 209, I believe. And now, in our most recent reports, you're reporting that you're at 216. And I'm just wondering, are you still expecting the $37 million in savings? Is there an average over a time period? Can you just tell us where we stand with respect to the savings that we're hoping to get?
Sure. We're referring to Amendment 5, which is for this fiscal year that we're in. we had come forward with a $128 million reduction in the price limitation, and within that was $37 million that you talked about with respect to use, which Council Gassis was referring to, and as well as some restructuring of the administrative component of it. We are at today actually over 217,000, but the weighted average we expected, which is what the contract is based on, was I think about 208, and I think we're still in that number. And after our conversation, confirmed with finance that we believe will come in with the numbers that we talked about when we get to June 30th.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, all in favor of item 10, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Please note that item 11 has been withdrawn by the agency. So we're going to move on and ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 12, 13, and 14 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Public Health.
So,
A
second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Oh, Councilor.
Commissioner, in regards to item 14, there's an increase of $67,000 and extending the completion date a year. However, I'm looking at Greater Seacoast Community Health. They're out of the picture at this time, and it's perplexing to me because the incidence of breast cancer rate for Greater Portsmouth and the region is higher than both the state and the nation, and that's per study done through the Greater Portsmouth Public Health Network. And then the State Cancer Registry through ATSDR shows elevated cervical cancer rates. They went in anticipating 7 cases in this one study, yet 25 were observed. And I'm noting, continuation with services in Manchester at 2 sites. And I just have to ask.
Sure, I'll have someone from Public Health on the line addressed why Seacoast is not seeing an increase in this contract.
Thank you.
Yes, hi, hello, Councilor. This is Lisa Morris, Director of Public Health. I can answer that question for you. You are correct that we are in the need of locating additional agencies who can provide the array of services that are required for this particular contract. Unfortunately, the provider in the Greater Seacoast, that particular contract ended mutually, and we're in the process of identifying other potential providers.
Great, thank you. So they are not cut out. We're just pending at this point.
It was a mutual decision for reasons that I can chat with you offline if that works for you. But we are looking for other providers. They have to be able to provide the array of services noted in the contract. Why? Because we're talking about uninsured, underinsured, very low income women who need that navigation assistance.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, seeing no further requests for discussion, all in favor of items 12, 13, and 14, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 15, 16, and 17 from the Department of Health and Human Services in the Division of Behavioral Health.
So moved.
With a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Kenny.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm just wondering, contract 16, which is a contract for suicide prevention, Lifeline. I really do this out of honor and respect of a student at PSU, Flint State University. We took this life a couple of weeks ago, and my son is a junior at Flint State University, and as a parent of kids who are in high school and college, I was really struck by that. And obviously, he was a kid from out of state. He didn't have that support unit, maybe, or his local support unit. But I'm just wondering, can you walk me through this, how this is going to help, and how are they going to access it?
Sure. It's a universal 988 number. Instead of each state having individual suicide prevention hotlines, Counselor Fox is on the phone. She's working with it more intimately, so I'll let her speak to it and how it's going to impact our community.
Good morning, Councilor Kenny and Governor and the rest of the council members. So, thank you for the question. This is a really difficult topic, and we always pause when we hear about the loss of life due to suicide. So, with that, this was an opportunity that was provided through Vibrant Emotional Health to plan for the establishment of a new 3-digit number that will be nationwide. So this was a result of lots of advocacy for many years with Congress and with the federal government in order to establish a very simple line. So this is an opportunity for an individual or a family member who is experiencing the suicidal thoughts, and just going through difficulty, to not have to call 911, but to call this 988 to be able to receive the support both telephonically and also the referrals for in-person follow-up. So we currently have HeadRest, which provides this service, and that is the national 800 number. This is going to convert it into a 3-digit, easy-to-remember number, and we are going to use this time for planning to be able to work with 211, to work with 911, and to work with the other phone numbers that are out there to make sure that we don't lose people. So we don't want people to call a number and be told that they have to hang up and call another number and then call another number and get on hold. So it's really streamline that process and make it readily available. As you indicated, the person was from out of state. Well, it won't matter where they are. They're going to be able to call this number. So we also, I just need a chance to plug the work that's happening in suicide prevention. So as of Monday, the department now has a suicide prevention coordinator who is going to be spearheading this work, working with the Department of Safety, working with 211, and working with the Suicide Prevention Council to be able to better coordinate the services and do that work that you mentioned, which is really how do we get the word out, how do we streamline it, and how do we make sure that it's not just a number to nowhere, but that it really is a number to help.
So just to follow up on that, so a university trustee system, our most vulnerable population are college students, high school students who are of an age where they've been disconnected from a social peer group, and maybe their families, and remote learning, and a lot of issues that that they have never really encountered in their lives. So how do we communicate these numbers down to that level on university campuses, community college, high school?
So that's part of the planning on how we do that, and this will go in effect July 16th, 2022. But in the meantime, we actually are working on a campaign which is called the I Care campaign, and it was something that was developed internally to HHS for our staff as we were going through difficult periods, and it really speaks to the issue at hand and how we can go about making sure that people are connected. So that marketing is going to start within a couple of weeks. I was briefed on it yesterday, and we're going to start doing a lot more visibility around the issue. When it comes to the universities and college campuses and school districts, we need this planning time to really figure that out, but we also know that there are other partners out there like NAMI New Hampshire, and I think that's a really good point that we should follow up and look at what are we currently doing, what are the systems doing, and how can we work together to better publicize the information.
Well, thank you for those, comments. I appreciate it. And it's good to know that state government and nonprofits are working on this issue, but just encourage to expedite it because we're dealing with unprecedented times with a population, again, that's very vulnerable.
I agree, and it is devastating every time we hear these stories.
Councilor Stevens?
I'd just like to add to that this rate is also trickling down to our middle schools. Working with a group of parents on the Seacoast SAU 16, the superintendent is not committing to 5 days in the fall. And at the same time, I get word that one of my constituents, a middle school student, attempted suicide. Our kids, and I applaud you, we've got to get our kids back in school. And John Formello has been very helpful. So thank you.
Councilor Warren?
So question for Katja. Thank you, Katja, for being with us today. How will the 988 number work with the newly planned mobile crisis system, or do you know yet?
So thank you for the question. I don't know yet, but I know that we're going to have a plan to determine that. So as soon as this contract's awarded and the contract for the new dispatch center, so to speak, for mobile crisis, that contract should be appearing before you. I believe it's going to be the second week in April. They're then going to be able to start talking to each other. So that planning is going to be in earnest over the later part of April, May, June, July, as we do that. So it all is to be determined, but we are determined and we are required to be able to streamline that process, just as we need to with 211 and 911.
Do you have a follow-up?
I do.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. This is with respect to item 17, the 211 number for the contract with Granite United Way. It occurred to me as I was reviewing this that I'm reminded that 211 is in use for people who are in crisis and needing substance use disorder treatment. And at the same time, obviously, we've seen a great increase in the use of 211, many constituents often complaining that they get busy signals, endlessly. Just wondering if anything can be done to increase the capacity of 211 so we don't have people who are seeking emergency services in crisis trying to reach a number that they can just not get through to.
Is that a question to Katja?
Gotcha.
But
Go ahead.
So I would say we have literally over 100 people. I mean, we can keep putting more people onto 211. It's we have 50 to 70 state employees that we've reassigned to 211.
No,
So,
I understand. I do understand, Governor.
yeah, so I'm out of money for
No,
funding.
I understand, and I understand the
Yeah.
pressing need of COVID, people calling in about COVID, but it just reminded me that we do have people out there that are in crisis trying to also use 211 for a different purpose. And
We're executing a COVID contract for a call center in the coming weeks that is going to stand up an additional 75-person call center specifically for the vaccine with a separate number.
To help separate those two things out.
thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, hearing no further discussion, all in favor of items 15, 16, and 17, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are approved. Bear with me. I apologize. I didn't look. Do we have cable items? We do, yes. You accept the one from DOT, nothing from HHS. Okay. Okay, great. So we have no cable items from HHS, so we'll move on to the Department of Transportation items. We'll begin by asking for a motion to adopt agenda items 18 through 33 from the Department of Transportation.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Gatsas.
Thank you, Governor. Number 18, we're transferring $525,000 from the highway surplus account on winter maintenance. For what month? Because it hasn't snowed this month, and it didn't snow much last month.
So, good morning, Governor, good morning, Council, for the record, this is Sheehan from DOT. This transfer is to address shortcomings in particular class lines. When we are estimating the cost of winter, we use rolling averages for the last 3-year period, and we ended up being a little bit short, specifically in the rental equipment line. So this $525,000 is to complete the payment to all of the rented trucks and drivers that supported our maintenance efforts this year. And it may not have snowed much statewide, but we've still had some winter weather in the month of March. We're hoping that the winter mix that's forecasted this weekend doesn't materialize, and that we just see rain.
Is there a reason why this didn't come before the council sooner?
So we went to fiscal last Friday, and then we brought the item before you. There's been no delay in payments to contractors. This would be for the final payments for the season.
Councilor Stevens.
In regards to item number 25, we saw on March 4th, we had 4 contracts that were covered under FTA CARES Act funds. And with this contract, I'm wondering if they would have also, this is an existing contract dating back to 2007, would they have been eligible for CARES funding?
So we worked very closely with the Governor's Office and the Legislature to maximize the use of the CARES Act funding that we received. So we make sure that we followed the CARES Act guidelines. We got allocations in each of the different categories. So for example, there was a separate allocation for the small urban transit providers. There was an allocation for rural transportation. Then we had allocations for what we call the Boston urbanized area. So we've been trying to leverage the CARES Act and our traditional funding. So the choice was made to use the traditional FTA funds for these particular contracts. But we have to kind of stretch the value and use a mixture of CARES and FTA to support all of these services during this critical time for them.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Gatsas.
Thank you, Governor. Items 20, 21, 22, 23. Those $1 million contracts. Is there a reason why we believe that if we tell somebody we can spend $1 million, that they aren't going to reach $1 million when they ask for the money to spend?
So these
I would
contracts,
think we might be able to do it for $500,000, take the residual of the $500 that you have, and put it in a holding fund. As I said the last time, I think we're up to over $20 million for bridge design on the come.
so these contracts, Council, are similar to the contract that you asked about at a prior meeting. At that time, it was on-call highway design contracts, as well as on-call contracts for environmental services associated with hazmat remediation. And as a follow-up to that, I believe you did receive a letter from the Department of the summary.
Can you make it a little bigger when you sent it out? I asked the governor if you could see it last time.
So these
The numbers
contracts,
are a little larger.
while it's a not to exceed value of $1 million, there's no actual funding attached to these contracts. They're for on-call services. There's no commitment that we're going to spend this money with these particular firms. These contracts just give us capacity so that we can be nimble when we have particular design assignments that we want to make. The money is budgeted in the projects themselves. So through the 10-year plan process, we budget for preliminary design at the project level, and then when you utilize one of these contracts, they charge to that project. So none of these firms have a guarantee that they're going to get $1 million worth of work. We also have a fixed duration, so that periodically we're going out and we're re-procuring for new firms that we believe will have the qualifications to support us. And we do look at past experience and availability of staffing. At the time that we're making the assignment, and if the firm doesn't have the bandwidth, then we'll use a different consultant. And we will have a latitude for these contracts, but there's no commitment to spend $1 million.
Is there any way that, if I can follow, is there any way that all these million-dollar contracts can come in one agenda, so we know how many millions of dollars we have? Because I think we're up to 20.
Unfortunately, we have a consultant selection committee that is involved in the procurement of these consulting firms. So to stagger their workload, we have different durations for each set of contracts. So that's why you'll see, as an example, there was the highway design and the hazardous material ones that came forward. Now you're seeing some of the preservation services and the bridge design, and that's just so we can distribute the workload across the year and not have everything come forward for procurement one time.
So these all go through December 29, 2023.
Correct.
So they're all the same date.
But we will burn through the funds associated with the project.
Bad word.
Right.
Bad word when you're in government, going through it.
Because they're on call, depending on the nature of the assignment. We might give, one larger assignment to a firm, and then when they complete that one task, there's no dollars left in their contract. The other contracts, we may have a sizable balance. It all depends on, the federal funding primarily that we receive and the size of the 10-year plan, how much we're going to utilize this contract.
And then just a general question. General question is DOT. I was reading where Massachusetts, Vermont is opposed to the railroad sale from Pan Am to Southern.
The acquisition is,
And I know that,
purchasing plan.
I know that we filed as an intervenor status. Is there any way you can come into the council and give us a breakdown of what DOT thinks is going to happen and why they haven't either supported it? Because most of that railroad is in my district. So I just want to know what's going to happen before all of a sudden somebody says, oh, we only have 3 weeks to make this decision because here's the contract.
So we'd be happy to do that presentation. I just want to clarify something. I think my understanding is that Vermont is not opposed. They too are following the FTD proceeding, as we are in New Hampshire. Massachusetts expressed their concerns. There's different thresholds when you file with the Surface Transportation Board, and Massachusetts felt that for an acquisition of this size, it should have been significant filing, and that wasn't what CSX and Pan Am chose to pursue. A significant filing will give you more transparency and visibility to the plan moving forward and what CSX intends to do with the corridors. So I don't believe that anyone has opposed it yet. They're just opposing the process. They want more.
My understanding is Vermont opposed it also.
Maybe we put a little package together.
We'll be happy to get additional information on
I mean, if you want to do it in non-public, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
I think we could do it as a council meeting, that would be fine. There's nothing that we've been provided that's confidential information.
Councilwoman.
Should make sure you add information about the line from Nashville to Wilson on that, because we have a lot of that line leased, and what the effect would be on that.
I just have a note for so that the minutes are accurate. On item 31 on the agenda, it says it's property along Lake Winnipesaukee, but it's actually Winnisquam in the underlying documents, so that can be corrected.
Further discussion on any of these DOT items? Okay, hearing no further discussion, all in favor of item 1733, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the items are approved. We do have one table item from the Department of Transportation. And I guess I would just ask the council if there's an interest to, or a motion to remove table item 24 from the Department of Transportation, or if there's an interest in keeping it on the table.
You can remove it.
Okay, so I'll take that as a motion.
Motion.
Second.
And a second, thank you. All in favor of removing table item 24 from the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is now removed from the table. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda item 24?
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second to adopt it. Any discussion on formally tabled item 24 from the Department of Transportation?
Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Governor. On your sheet, there's a final balance that's available of almost $10 million in just these projects. Where is that $10 million going?
So this remaining balance associated with all of the projects that have been completed. So the makeup of funds, is turnpike funds, state government funds, different categories of federal dollars. So what we do is we'll de-obligate any of the unspent balance associated with these projects, and then we just roll that money forward into the other projects in the various categories in the 10-year plan. So if we come in under budget, then that means that we can move forward with other priorities that were already established in the 10-year plan.
Right, that's by the department's choice. I think that when we looked at the 10-year highway plan, just a short while ago, the council decided to move that money that's left over for other projects.
No, I think what was discussed,
That's what we voted in the council, and we sent that on to the House.
the proposal that went to the House was concerning the State Aid Bridge Program.
Yes.
Was not concerning unspent contingency from other projects.
I think we used that money to pay for those additional bridge projects.
Councillor, I'd be happy to send you the information, but what we were given the authority to do is to bond the State Aid Bridge Program if necessary to accelerate State Aid Bridge projects, which was a separate discussion from the contingency discussion.
But then somebody from your department went in and spoke to the House and spoke in opposition to bonding those projects.
We did not speak in opposition. What we did was to reduce the amount of bonding based on updated revenue projections. The House wanted to be a little more conservative in how much bonding they wanted to do in light of the future revenue projections. But we still had that authority to bond. We very much moved forward with the proposal that was presented by the council.
So all of those bridge projects were eliminated.
No, many of those projects were advanced, as discussed in the asset phase. We just didn't bond at the same levels as were originally recommended.
How did you pay for them without the bond?
We did the bonding, we just didn't bond at the same level.
But how did you pay for those bridge projects? With bonding, but obviously when you presented it to us, you didn't have them funded or bonded.
The projects were cash flow throughout the 10-year plan based on the forecasted revenues. The desire by the council was to accelerate some of the State Aid Bridge Program spending by bonding. And so that was the proposal that the legislature approved. We just chose to borrow at a lower level, so we didn't accelerate as many projects as was anticipated in the gas.
So if I may, just for my clarification, so some of the projects on that list got done, or in the process of getting done with the reduced bonding amount, some were left on the list untouched. So there's still some projects, because I believe at the time that idea was to bond for the whole list.
Yes.
So 45 million.
I'd be happy to provide you with the comparison of what the plan was in the gas phase and what the legislature approved in the later phase.
And ultimately from there we'd be able to see what is still left, right?
I would think that the legislature would have a desire before the department does it, of where to spend the $10 million. I would think.
So what we do is we honor the priorities that are established in the 10-year plan. So across the board, if we receive additional grant funding, or if at the end of the year we receive additional dollars through what we call redistribution, we just accelerate projects from the next year to 10-year plan. We don't add new projects at the department's discretion, because the 10-year plan is only every 2 years. Any additional revenue that we receive, we use to accelerate the projects. It's based on readiness, of course. We can't accelerate something that's not going to be ready for construction. So we're very much honoring the commitments that are made in the 10-year plan. And then we do the next 10-year plan update in 2 years. That's when we add the new projects with the input from first the council and the asset phase and then from the legislation.
So that $10 million could be used for Exit 4A.
I just caution you, this is across all the different funding categories.
I just asked you a question.
A small portion of it perhaps could be used for 4A. but
Why not all?
because as I explained,
I know, but you make the choices. In other words, you could select item 12, the department could, and the legislature could say, should be item 31.
so in this case, we're talking about proportionally a very small amount of money. So for example, the turnpike project comes in under budget and the unspent contingency is freed up, then we only can direct those dollars to an upcoming turnpike project. So it may be, $1 million of unspent betterment money that gets rolled into an upcoming paving project, or 4 or 5 million of federal projects, but it's also a number of the different federal categories. It's challenging for us to be concerned to these programs. If we had a significant balance, then maybe we could do an entire project, but usually you're talking about partial funding for single projects.
Sounds like $10 million is a lot of money. And it could go to 4A, in my opinion.
I was going to make a comment about the $4 trillion being debated down in Washington. We're going to require $10 million being debated.
Well, see, that's New Hampshire. We worry about $10 million.
Exactly, as we should.
More about $10.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
and motion approved.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of formally tabled item 24? Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, the formally tabled item is now approved. Thank you. And that concludes the DOT items for today. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 34 through 39 from the Community Development Finance Authority. So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Warrington, I think. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you.
Well, good to see you, Edward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We spoke yesterday about item 36. In the explanation of this item, it says that this is a water system that serves a population of approximately 1,500 persons, of which 549 are low and moderate income. And of course, the threshold for these projects is 51% needs to be to serve low and moderate income. The summary of the project on the last page also indicates approximately 1,500 persons. It's at odds with what the contract actually says of 1056. So just hoping you could explain how we get to the 51%.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for raising that question. The 1,500 actually includes both residential and non-residential users. In this case, there's a significant population of school children and teachers who use this system, making up the difference between the 1,049 residential users and the 1,500, which are the total users on the system. But Community Development Block Grant Program requires us to take residential users to determine the low and moderate income determination.
Do we have any documentation of the residential versus non-residential?
Yeah, the application includes a full calculation of those that are residential versus non-residential. It also includes the census data, which is where we develop the full number of residential users and those that are low and moderate income.
Okay. Thank you for looking into that.
Yes, thank you for raising the question.
Additional discussion from the council or questions on these items? Okay, hearing no further questions, all in favor of items 34 through 39, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, the items are approved.
Thank you all.
Thank you. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 40 through 45 from the Office of Strategic Initiatives.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Kenny.
Item 42.
Sure, I think the director is here.
Morning, Governor. Councilor George Coyne.
Morning. How are you,
I'm
John? So the LEAP program, this is probably the last kind of winter quarter, if you will, that this funding comes in. But could you kind of explain is this a retroactive contract, or is this just a contract that money just drops in periodically for the overall amount of $6,225,000? So can you kind of explain that process?
Sure, of course. So our program year ends April 30th, so we start accepting applications for this current winter heating season that we're in. The federal government makes the award in November, so we receive the program year 21 award in November. They always give us 90%, and what you see today is the remaining 9%. They typically always hold back 1%. So the 9% remaining of our award, they give to us at this point in the year. So we go ahead and contract right out with the community action agencies for that remaining funding.
So it's increasing the amount by $1,708,000, so that's 9%
Of the total they've received, that Tri-County has received.
So Tri-County Cap in Berlin is going to receive, as of this contract, how much?
So $6 million total is what Tri-County received for this program year.
Okay. So increasing the amount by $1,708,000 from $4,516,000 to the total amount you just mentioned. That's a 9% increase?
No, that is not a 9% increase. It's not, I'm sorry, I need to back up. 9% of our total award for the state.
For the state?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry. That's
Gotcha.
right, yeah.
I'm just doing some mathematical calculation in my head, basic that it is.
Right.
Okay, no, it's obviously a very important program.
It is.
One of the contracts that I always look for because, like you, you're actually live in the North Country. I kind of live in the Lakes region, so you know how fuel assistance is so important to the North Country
It
residents.
absolutely is.
So thank you.
Of course.
Councillor Stevens.
The disbursement between goods and services lines of credit and budget plan payments, I mean, how are the funds allocated within those three categories, would you say?
That's a great question. I would have to get back to you.
Okay.
I don't know that off the top of my head right now.
Thank you, then.
Councillor Gaddis.
Have these funds serviced all the people that are looking for the funding?
Absolutely, Councilor. So, a couple things that have happened during COVID. For instance, the rental assistance program that was set up with the CARES Act funding. That covered not just the rent of those facing financial hardship, but their utilities. So, and that was through January. So we have seen a smaller number of qualifying households this year, but the demand, we're meeting all of the demand. So, for instance, this is the first year we've ever advertised for lighting. Radio, Facebook, we paid for that because we knew there would be many more families who needed help due to COVID. So we want to get the message out there. And as of right now, there's no backlog at the community action agencies where everything is caught up. If someone needs heating assistance right now, they can apply through April 30th, and we'll pay their back bills for this winter. There's a lot of federal assistance out there right now, so a lot of money.
Money's not the problem.
And I would also add that the $25 million we received for this program year through the CARES Act, we get an additional $6.7 million. So over $30 million this program year for fuel assistance.
On top of the rental assistance program that
Exactly, on top of the rental assistance program. So
I think if I may, I think we allocated 20 plus 15. I think we had a reserve account, with the reserve account, 35 million allocated to the rental assistance program. Under 20? Got taken up, do you remember what the number was? I think under 20 actually got requested. So people, I mean, they came for it and we advertised on it.
if any of your constituents reach out to you for assistance, call me directly. We'll make sure that they're connected with the community action agency.
Councilor Whitler.
Changing subjects, item 40.
Yes, sir.
Starting in the back with the attachment, I'm kind of confused about what trucks qualify for euthanasia here. The eligible medium trucks doesn't have much of a description, and the larger trucks, I don't know what Fish and Game has for larger trucks other than maybe the stocking trucks. So Are we replacing pickup trucks?
So we're replacing, this increase that you see in the amendment, they requested, they found 3 additional vehicles that qualified for replacement. One was a medium-duty truck, one was a 6-wheel dump truck, and the other was a 10-wheel dump truck. I'm not much of an expert on dump trucks, but I can get back to any additional information that you'd like, including the other vehicles that we replaced. I don't have that in front of me, but I can
That
do
was my
that.
next question, what vehicles do we replace with the earlier models? I really, this program drives me crazy. We gotta cut these trucks up and throw them away. We have to take a torch and cut a 3-inch hole in the engine for perfectly good vehicles because someone put their hand out there with money. It just seems to make no sense. And the last time we talked about this, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we replaced a bunch of payloaders. And this year, particularly because of COVID, we have met our air quality standards. And this is a terrible place to put money if you're trying to clean up the air. And the last time we talked about it, we get triple or quadruple bang for our buck if we put this same money into fixed pollutants, not vehicles. And so I would like to know what vehicles we replaced last time and threw them away. We don't even get any money on them. They got to be all cut up. It just seems ridiculous. So we're going to do a dump truck but not pickup trucks.
2 dump trucks and 1 medium-duty truck, and I'll get back to you on that description, what model.
And if we could, year, model,
Mileage.
any mileage, condition, right? And that's what we're getting at here. It isn't
Yes.
just a dump truck.
Yeah.
If you said a 1997 dump truck with 270,000 miles, well, that makes maybe a little more sense. Obviously, it was probably towards the end of life. I think I don't need to speak for the council, of course, but what I would like to know is to ensure we're not getting rid of a 2017 medium-duty pickup, because that would be, I think some eyebrows would be raised. Why are we getting rid of, new cars?
In the settlement agreement,
Yeah.
our hands are tied, what we can and cannot do, right? To accept the money, we agreed to a number of things. I can't tell you that we wouldn't do that to a 2017 vehicle. There is a number of requirements, but I can definitely get you that information.
Yeah, this says it has to be older than 17, but I think we should put this on the table and get that information and make a better analysis of what this is, and not just spend the money because the Fed's handed it to us. It just, I don't think it makes sense, but I'd like to wait and get the information.
Second.
Was a motion and a second to table.
Can
Well, I think I have to take it.
I'll remove my second.
Sure.
Okay, we'll remove this second for discussion. Thank you.
Just wondering if there's any concern about putting this item on the table.
Well, one concern would just be as we bump up against the end of the fiscal year, as we're working with Fish and Game to they're ordering these vehicles. So I just want to make sure that we don't jeopardize the replacement.
We still have a little
Takes
time.
a little time.
Couple months.
In October, in the fiscal year?
You mean our fiscal year?
Our fiscal year.
I think it's so
Okay.
maybe for at least a couple weeks. So if you get the information, sooner you get the information, the better. So
Very soon.
Table again.
okay, motion to table and second. All in favor of tabling item 40? This is item 40 that we're talking about. Right? All in favor of tabling item 40, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 40 is tabled. Thank you. Further discussion on any of these other items from OSI? Great. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of items 41 through 45 from the Office of Strategic Initiatives, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. I like your use of euthanizing the truck. Although it's Fish and Game, I think they just dispatch.
Oh,
They
okay.
just control things. That's their thing. Okay, moving on, we do have one item, item 46 from the New Hampshire Council on Developmental Disabilities. Could I have a motion to adopt item 46?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of item 46, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 46 is approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 47, 48, and 49 from the Department of Military Affairs and Veteran Services.
So moved.
We
Second.
have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Oh, Councilor Stevens?
Adjutant General Michaelides is
I
here.
think he was here. Oh, there he is.
Yes, sir.
He was hiding.
I just want to thank you for keeping me, my family, my constituents, the state of New Hampshire safe. You have stepped up. Your work has been exemplary. The National Guard has done a fabulous job. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
No, the only thing I'd say is it's truly a testament to our soldiers and airmen who are at the fixed vaccination sites, the call centers, the PPE warehouse. I think yesterday we just set a record of over 10,500 vaccines. We had 400 soldiers and airmen at those sites, but we couldn't do it without the first responders, obviously HHS, and everyone else. So it's a true team effort.
Great.
Thank
Just
you.
wanted to comment too that I went out to a vaccine site over Plymouth National Guard Armory, and it was Lieutenant Colonel Bird, and the First Sergeant Bouchard, Lieutenant Wire, and law enforcement, and it was seamless. It worked wonderful, and I think the people were highly motivated to get their shots, and they're quite impressed with the operation. And so I wanted to thank you. And I know a lot of the other councils visited vaccine sites as well, so really good on you. But I did have a question about 48. It looks like we get some resources to fix the Civil War cannon.
Yes.
Okay. Is that going to be an operational or non-operational
Non-operational.
cannon? Non-operational. Okay. I didn't know if we were going to try to put it back into inventory. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion? I'm sorry, I'm looking at Councilor Gatz. Tomorrow, Greek Independence Day?
It is.
The
It
200th
is.
anniversary of Greek Independence.
200th anniversary.
Well, congratulations.
You giving out a proclamation, are you?
I did. We got lots of those. Bring the buckle. Yeah. Oh,
Where's the
and
commissioner?
the Commissioner Baklava is here today.
Hands are empty, though.
I can go. I see you're hiding behind your mask, Commissioner.
down. I'll make it up to you next time.
I always know when the Commissioner comes in because I'm in my office and literally 40 feet away through 3 closed doors, I hear a thud. And it's the baklava hitting the table. It's so big and heavy, and it's delicious. It's delicious. So, well, thank you. Well, happy Greek Independence Day to all of our Greek citizens in the state. So hearing no further discussion on items 47, 48, and 49, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And those items are approved. Thank you, General. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 50, 51, and 52 for the Department of Agriculture, Markets, and Food.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 53 from the Insurance Department.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on item 53? Hearing none, all in favor of item 53, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 53 is approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 54 and 55 from New Hampshire Employment Security.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Gaston.
Just general discussion.
Yep, I think the Commissioner is here. I will not note that he's wearing a red tie. I'm just saying, I thought a blue tie would be a little more over. It's tomorrow, okay?
Commissioner, I happened to be watching the news last night, and they were talking about the fraudulent claims when it comes to employment security. I don't know what our number looks like, but the national one is pretty big.
Yeah, the national number, Governor and Council is, for the record, George Gaddis, Commissioner of Employment Security. So the national number is really high. Our number is about 25,000 fraudulent claims, and those are basically stolen identities of individuals. And either been people in the past who've been stolen identities when they're trying to file taxes, or it's been one of the breaches. the rest have been caught, and
Good job.
The rest have been caught, and there's certain flags that we look for on the initial claims, and also we put something, a new process in place, which will take people a little bit longer to get through the process of filing an initial claim, but again, it's going to assist us in catching these people up front before they get paid any dollars.
Maybe the federal government should be paying attention to what we're doing here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. In other states, the
So
stories.
in some of the states, you've got like
Crazy.
California, I think had 11.3 fraudulent claims that were paid out. Washington State had over 500 billion that were paid out. So we staff have done a great job.
When you say 11.3 out of California, we're talking
Billion.
billion. We have a couple hundred claims. They have a
Yeah. And, they've done, staff have done a great job just catching it, and the number of folks that have called me direct, once I've called down to benefit payment control, I mean, the claim's already been shut down.
Good job.
Commissioner, can I ask a question? How many outstanding unemployment claims are there right now?
Outstanding unemployment?
Well, how many people are still receiving unemployment benefits in the state?
Last week was 46,000 altogether between all programs.
Okay.
And the number continues to drop down. The state UI rate continues to drop. For the claims continue to drop each and every week. We've gone 8 straight weeks where the state UI claims have dropped. We've paid out, so far we've paid out over a $1.7 billion since the start of the pandemic.
And at the height of, weekly claims, what was the amount?
At the height, it was the beginning of May, it was 116,000 continued claims for the week. Prior to pandemic, it was 600 initial claims and about 4,000 continued claims for the week, just to give you a sense as to, and like I said, the numbers continue to drop, which is great. The unemployment rate is 3.3 now. That rate continues to drop, and our initial claims continue dropping. We think the initial claims this week are going to be just, they're going to be a little bit higher than pre-pandemic, but not that much higher than pre-pandemic, which is great. There are a lot of people going back to work. The agency has 2 job fairs coming up at the beginning of April for the hospitality and recreation fields that we're doing with New Hampshire Lodging and Restaurant Association and BEA. They're partnering with us. So things are progressing.
I just wanted to thank the Commissioner for all his hard work, because he has called me at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. He's still in his office helping constituents in my district with unemployment claims, and some of them are really serious, that are family-altering decisions that he's taking on every day of the week. So I appreciate you working very hard. Pay attention, other commissioners. This guy is putting the hours in.
A phenomenal job doing this. So.
We are very fortunate. I talk to other governors all the time, and they are constantly asking us what we are doing, and how we're doing it. And they're pinging these, both Richard Lavers and George Kapadas, in terms of how we're doing it, because other states are, I don't want to speak to them too much, but they're a mess. They're an absolute mess. There's so much money just being abused and sent overseas and all this kind of craziness. When you look at 1%, we think we haven't caught 1% of the actual claims that are fraudulent. That's amazing. That's really amazing. Further discussion?
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you,
done.
Commissioner. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of items 54, do you have a question?
General conversation, Governor.
Yeah, of course.
On item 55,
Sure.
there's another big payment.
Commissioner George, sorry, we might have another quick question for you.
Citizens Bank
Yes.
is receiving, I don't know, $587,000 for accounts that they hold of banking services. Is there any way that either, I don't think the commissioner can do it, but maybe administrative services can give us a list of the amount of money that we pay Citizens Bank to provide services?
Like all the fees we pay for the various services?
Yeah, because there's a lot of fees that keep going out the door. And they, I think, are our bank that holds our money.
They're one of them, yeah.
The biggest one.
Maybe, I don't know, it would be, I guess I'm looking at both either administrative services, and I don't think that Monica, our state treasurer is here.
It would be the treasurer's office who takes care of that.
If we can have her just put together a list of all the money that we're paying out to banks.
Yeah. One thing I will add, when we got all the CARES Act money last year, one thing we realized is we didn't ask New Hampshire banks to hold our money. That shocked me, even the little banks. So we offered the New Hampshire banks to start holding our money, and I think most took us, I'm looking at you, John, a little bit. Most, if not all of the 18, I think, New Hampshire banks took us up, and we now make direct deposit. We did make deposits into those banks so that the theory being that they could lend them, right? Puts more cash in our banks as opposed to just the big guys. So I only say that in that maybe we'll get a more comprehensive list. Citizens, TD, People's, and then all the New Hampshire banks as well.
Because those are certainly items we can negotiate.
Sure. Yeah.
On our end, we were just looking to extend it for a year because of the volume of.
No, I wasn't pertaining to this one, I was just saying in general for everything.
Here's a question. Do we have a single account? I don't know this. Do we have a single account that holds our unemployment trust fund?
Correct, yes.
Do you happen to know, is that Citizens? Is that what it is? Just a single account at Citizens?
It holds the funds.
The UI cash. The funds for our unemployment.
That comes to us, we do a drawdown. It's the feds that hold it, we do receive interest on those funds.
Okay.
The fund now is at about 110 million right now, thanks to the 50 million in COVID monies that came over.
Who's holding the funds?
It's the feds, USDOL holds that money. We do a drawdown.
They do it, but they're holding our money as well, not just their UI program. Our funds from our state program is also
UI money.
It's all held in the same fund by the feds that we draw down on.
Correct.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sorry. Can we ask one more question, George? I apologize. So do we pay, and because the federal government is really, they're effectively managing that fund for us. So do we pay any fees on that unemployment trust fund, or do we gain any interest on it?
Yeah, we have interest on it, but I don't think we're paying fees, so.
Well, we take the interest but not the fees.
Right.
Oh, sounds like we got to get rid from the feds on that one. Okay, great. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You sure?
No, I'm not. I'll be governor. I hold the right to call you back at any moment. But, no, I appreciate that. Kaylee, did we vote on these items? We did, on 40, 54, and 55. Okay, so they are approved. Okay, great. All right. So moving on, we do have one item from the Department of Corrections. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda item 56 from the Department of Corrections?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Gatsis.
Thank you. I noticed that for some reason.
I think Commissioner Hanks might be on the phone. Commissioner Hanks, are you joining us today?
Yes, I am, Governor Sununu. This is Helen Hanks. I'm sorry that I'm not there in person. Commissioner of the Department of Corrections, happy to answer questions.
Thank you.
Question I have is that I know the last time this came up 2 years ago, I asked where were we buying the naloxone, and at the time it was, I don't know, you were paying 75, and I think you contracted with AMR and went down to 31. Is there a reason why we didn't go back to the AMR and pay half the price?
Councilor Gass, this is a great question. I'll pull through my research on that. I know that we leveraged the price AMR offered at the time to reduce the price offered to us, to the Minnesota Multi-State Purchasing Group that we're a part of to procure pharmaceuticals. And I did get the current cost of the 2-dose series, and I know that was delivered to you, but I will have to pull up the history on that and either do just what you recommend, which is to procure it additionally from AMR now, and or leverage that price to reduce our price with MCAS.
I'll make the motion to table.
Okay, motion to table in a second. All in favor of tabling item 56, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Going one opposed?
I guess it's a little late, but is there any harm in
Yeah.
tabling this?
The harm is there's harm in the fact that we're already 3 months behind in trying to invest in the pilot, which was showing a reduction in recidivism, which is the primary impact on the steady parole violation return. I would ask if you would mind, I'd be happy to get this information for the end of the meeting. The naloxone component is a small component of the huge investment in personnel that was making a difference in slowing the return to reincarceration.
So we could table and just bring it back up at the end of the meeting?
Yeah, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, so I'll take that as an approval to table. So 4-1 tabling, right? And then with the idea that we can bring it back at the end. So we're going to table item 56. Okay, Commissioner, whatever you can do to get us some information, and we'll try to come back to you at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, I'd ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 57 and 58 of the Public Utility Commission.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
Governor?
Councilor Kenny.
So I have a discussion of 57, but it really has more to do with concerns from the public with regards to the Antrim turbine project. I passed out to the councilors a letter that was sent over by 3 state senators and Michael Bose, who's head of I believe, Science and Technology in the House. The concern is that the public, with regards to this project, can oftentimes have not been notified, such as the meeting in November with regards to the public hearing. They have questions about some of the abutters with regards to the sound of the wind turbines and how that is falling under the current rules and regulation. There's kind of a misunderstanding between the public and the Site Evaluation Commission. Additionally, with this letter, it really spells out a lot of the points along the way where the public was really kind of shut out or their input was not taken. We know that with the Site Evaluation Commission that the administrator is no longer there, and that Jody Carmody is taking the place of Pam Monroe. And we know that her position is really the docket supervisor for the PUC. My concern is that we really need to put this pay raise on pause to really have a discussion with the leadership, Ms. Martin, to figure out what are we doing with how we're interacting with the public and getting the word out. Another example is they said, well, the lighting on the wind turbines was supposed to be motion detection lighting, and apparently there's full-time lighting there. So, but there's no response. So I understand the Site Evaluation Commission has not been overloaded with a lot of requests this past year, and that I think it's time to really look at this. And I'd like to table item 50. I believe 57 for a couple of weeks, so that I can have a discussion with the chairwoman of the PUC and find out why wasn't this put on the Antrim docket online, which it's supposed to be from state senators. Additionally, why wasn't the state senator letter responded to? These 2 legislators, Jeff Bradley, who has nearly 30 years of legislative experience looking over energy issues for the state, along with Michael Voss, who's also, again, chairman of the Science and Technology Committee, raised the same concerns. There has to be more public interaction on this project with regards to this, the Site Evaluation Commission. This is not usually my approach, but this, I've just learned within the last 2 or 3 days, and I think we really need to have a hearty discussion with the Site Evaluation Commission on this project and how the public's being treated. Because in statute, there are in rules and regulation, it's supposed to be full disclosure, abutters need to be contacted, full engagement, the questions are supposed to be answered, that there has been a shortfall with regards to this approach.
Sure, no, I appreciate that.
Governor, I would ditto everything Councilor Kenny said, and from is in my district. I think there's some meetings going on in the upcoming week with the town selectmen that may reveal, further information as well. So I think I do agree with Councilor Kenny that the appropriate thing to do is put this on the table and force some answers to come forward that just have not been forthcoming.
Sure. Okay, so I'm going to take that as a motion and a second.
Yes.
The table.
Okay. All in favor of tabling item 57, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Can we, why would we table her salary?
Because in effect, she might not be doing her job.
Well,
Governor?
I think she does her job and does it very
Yeah,
well.
1 second, Diane, sorry.
I think she does her job and does it very well. Okay? We all have our opinions.
I think we're voting.
Okay, so we're, all in favor of the tabling, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Anyone else opposed? So I just have to add those non-votes or ayes or noes? I'm not-
Oh, we're in support of it. I am.
You support of tabling?
Yes.
Yep, and Councilor Warmington, just so...
I'll table.
Support of tabling. Okay, so item 57 is tabled. So we can come back to it, of course, but item 57 is going to be tabled. So I'll ask for further discussion on item 58.
I think the commissioner had something to say on 57.
Yeah, well, so I guess now that we have tabled, so I'm happy to open it up to the commissioner if there's any response there.
Yes, Governor, Council, this is Betty Martin. I am the chairwoman of the Public Utilities Commission as well as the Site Evaluation Committee. Thank you for giving me a brief moment to respond to that. I think I will open by saying I wholeheartedly agree that the Site Evaluation Committee process and funding needs to be evaluated. And I did respond to Senator Bradley's letter. We had a really good conversation about the possibility of doing a wholesale review of the committee process, the statutes, and the funding to make sure that it can be run properly and in a way that is very transparent. And I just wanted to update as far as the Antrim one specific. It's pending, so I can't get into too much detail, but I can say that there is a public meeting scheduled for tomorrow. And some of the agenda items include complaints from local residents and a number of pending items. That was started. The public meeting was started at the end of November and will continue tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm
Councilor
happy to take questions to provide any information I can
Sure.
now or at any other point.
So, Commissioners, Councilor Kenny, could you please send me a copy of that letter that you sent to Senator Bradley?
I actually spoke with Senator Bradley on the telephone. I sent a response to Representative Bowes, Senator Gaia, and Senator Ward's letter earlier, a written response, and the more recent one, I had that conversation with Senator Bradley, and we sort of came up with, I think, a plan as to how to make things better going forward.
Okay, just from the public standpoint and my standpoint, the letter that was sent to you on January 29, 2021, there's a lot of good content in here, a lot of questions are raised, and I can appreciate you had some private conversations and you had other type of correspondence, but you have 3 very important elected officials that sent out a series of questions, and if you could possibly answer that in letter form, and so that it can be disseminated to the council, so that we have an understanding of what's being said and what's not being said.
Absolutely, Councilor. And part of that will be, tomorrow will be the first public meeting of the committee since receipt of that letter. And so that will be one of the administrative items that will be discussed.
Thank you.
Councilor, really?
I'm all set.
You're all
Yeah,
set?
my question.
Okay, great. Further discussion on item 58? Okay. All in favor of item 58, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 58 is approved. And that concludes our PUC items for today. Thank you, Commissioner. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 59 from New Hampshire Fish and Game Department.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on item 59? Thank you, Council. And we'll decide whether you want to take up the table
Yeah.
items.
Okay. So, my first question is, do we intend to pay this with credit card? How do we pay this bill?
Do we have the director on?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Director. I don't know if you were able to hear the question in terms of how we intend on paying the bill for item 59.
I am not sure off the top of my head. I'll have to research and get back to you. My assumption is we'd be cutting a check and not paying with a credit card.
Well, I just need to know that because one of the terms here of the deal is we get charged credit card fees. If we use.
Yeah, I think that's a PayPal fee though. Yeah, I'll ask my business director.
Okay. And then the next question, Director, is on the very first paragraph of this item, it says that we're paying this for last year, not this year.
Okay. It's the way this organization does their billing, I believe.
Well, I think
Well, it's the membership period, January 1st, 21 through December 31st, 21.
but that's not what it says in the front page of the item. It says January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020.
Oh, I apologize, that is a typographical error.
So this is for the current year, 21.
Correct.
Governor, I just asked that we table this till we get the answer on the credit card and maybe have the item amended or at least figure out, put something in the record that this is for the current year, not last year.
Okay, so that's a motion to table on item 59. Is there a
I
second?
can probably have the information before the end of the meeting.
Is there a second on the table?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of tabling item 59, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, so item 59 will be tabled. I'm going to keep track of all the tables. What's going on? And so with that, let's go to formally tabled item 81 from the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. Is there a motion to remove item 81 from the
Can
table?
we just discuss it a little bit, Governor, without motion?
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
So, this is kind of getting like a soap opera. The plot kind of thickens on this. So if you remember the letter that Fish and Game sent us all, when they asked for this item to be withdrawn, they stated that the person that was going to do the pruning, there was no more season left to do the pruning, so we had to have this item withdrawn. That was Fish and Game's statement. But the person who was doing the pruning called me and we had a conversation about that, and he said, oh, he can prune till the end of May. So we have more confusing disinformation in this mix. And also in our conversation, he says he charges regular orchards $30 an hour, but this contract is for $60 an hour because he's considering the state to be a retail contract, which doesn't make any sense to me. I wanted to add that new information to the pile. I mean, he knows he's going to get paid working for the state. We shouldn't be treated different than an orchard. So I add that to the pile of being sole source contract, not doing a good job putting this out to bid. And then I also wanted to emphasize, when the council put this on the table, the director went around our back and gave this pruning guy a partial job anyways. Now, when I found that information out, I asked the director, for the contract. Well, then I find out there is no contract. contract because it's under $2,500. Apparently, there's a rule that says we don't need a contract. But I still haven't found out the particular information. Are you paying him per tree? What are we going to get for the $2,500? And I want those answers. So I prefer that just stays on the table and we try to get those answers.
Okay. Okay.
How many meetings has this been on the table now?
Two.
Two?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So we get it right.
been there a while. I guess I'd like to add this to the conversation. You know, we have a director here who directly defied the council's will and put this out to bid, didn't even put it out to bid, but gave partial funding to do this job anyways when he knew that we weren't convinced yet that this was the right direction to go in. And that kind of brings me to the point where I remember about 5 years ago, the Commissioner of Agriculture did the same thing to the council, and then I remember, gee, she didn't get reappointed. So I think this is a very serious and makes a very serious morale problem at Fish and Game, where the boss doesn't have to do what the boss says, so why should the employee do what their director says? I think we've got a big problem over there, and I just want to get that out.
Okay, so we'll leave item 81 on the table. Please. Okay, great. Okay, so moving on over to, we have a couple items from the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 60 through 66 from the Department of Business and Economic Affairs?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Any questions on items 60 through 66?
Just a general question.
Yeah, I think the Commissioner's here.
Morning, Commissioner.
Go ahead, ma'am.
The program that was in Manchester, is that part of this group or not?
No, it's not specifically part of this group. That contract is forthcoming.
Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion on any of these items? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of items 60 through 66, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 67 through 77 from the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on any of these items?
Question?
Yes.
When we adopt 76,
Do we have Commissioner Stewart? Commissioner Stewart? are you-
I am here. I am on the phone.
All right. Yes, you are.
that's another of those Century Bank and trust companies holding the lock boxes. Obviously, they're out of state, rather than use an in-state bank to do the lock boxes.
Commissioner, I don't know if you're able to hear that. Do you know why we use the out-of-state bank on item 76 for our lockbox services? Is that a discussion for you, or I don't know, does Treasury make that decision, or does your department? Do you know?
Thank you. Let me look at the item. I'm not sure if Director Bryce is also on the phone. This is a company that we've used in the past, and as you know, our Hampton Beach parking is a huge revenue source for the park system. Director Bryce, are you available? I don't think he is. I would be happy to get you an answer to that question.
Yes, Phil. Hold on. Hey, Phil.
Yeah.
How are you, Director?
Good morning, Phil Bryce, Director of Parks and DNCR. Yeah, I think Chris Marino is also on the call. I believe he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we put this up to bid in the past. And are just looking to extend the current contract with the current vendor. But I would defer to Chris regarding that process of putting this, I seem to recall in past years that this has gone out to bid. So, and I don't think the state process, when we do bid, allows us to make preferential treatment to in-state entities versus out-of-state entities. So, is Chris on?
Good morning, Chris Marino.
Victorino here, Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. Yes, that is correct. This was originally put out through an RFP process, and that was how the vendor was selected.
For the amount of money that they charge us, or for the amount of money that they pay us in interest for holding the money?
The details of the bid typically are based on what the cost will be to us for the services.
Has nothing to do with what we're receiving on interest? Or are we getting
Are
that?
you, I'm sorry, Council, are you talking about, are you referring to interest that the bank might assess on any revenue it receives?
Yes. Well, the revenue is all the amount of dollars that the commissioner said is a lot of money. Are we getting interest on those funds?
So Council, this is still right. I would suggest, and I can't answer for the company on how they determine their bid price, but I would suggest that the revenue they receive from receiving interest would be put into their financial model to determine how much they would bid for the project. So I wouldn't expect that we would put out an RFP that says how much you're going to charge us and how much are you going to pay us for interest on the money that you collect. Especially not knowing exactly what the numbers are going to be, but I would suggest that what we're concerned with is just, how much is it going to cost us to do this, and the revenue that they receive from the interest would be, again, part of their financial model to determine their bid.
I would think we would know that. Any businessman would ask that question, what are you making on our money?
Those fees have to be put up there.
We put out an RFP for the service, and usually with these RFPs, we don't get into the details of how they, we have not gotten into the details and how they calculate how much they're going to bid for the service. So if this is something in particular going forward, we can talk to admin services and our business office about, incorporating some of these other issues into the bid. I think it's a valid question. Is it reflected in what we ultimately pay? But we have not asked that question that I'm aware of when we put it up to bid, because we just bid straight for the service.
Can you call the bank and ask them if we're getting any interest on our money? Because I assume it involves millions of dollars.
Yeah, Chris Perino, do you have any additional thoughts? That's all I have really to offer at this point.
Yeah, sure. I would only add that I understand the question a little bit better now. First of all, we're really talking about thousands of dollars here, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. When the money is collected in fees, is again what we base on what is it going to cost us for their service. So once that has been bid out, what they do with those funds that are really sort of in the hands of the business entity, do we reach out and ask them what additional interest costs or additional fees might be added in that bid based on their business model is not necessarily a component of what we seek when we're looking to when we're trying to determine the best price for us.
So, Council, I just received a text from our other staff that's listening in, and they say they process the payments to us the same day they receive them. So they're not actually holding on to the money for any length of time. That's what I understand.
So they're just a collection group, but the money is really held by us, our other accounts. Is that it? They're just the guys. They're just ones opening the box and pulling the money out, and they transfer it right back over to the state.
Right, it's essentially a cost. It's a cost. They do the collection and we receive the funds, but there's no material assessment of interest factored into the numbers as part of the overall plan.
I'm gonna, looks like,
Governor, if I could just weigh in. Joe Bouchard, Department of Administrative Services. The item that we have from the department includes the original contract award and the two vendors that did apply to the RFP. One in New Hampshire Bank, the other bank. You folks have this in your backup information online. It includes the scope of services that's provided. And it does say that funds will be transferred to the state treasury every single day, and they hold on $500. So that speaks to what Phil and his group are kind of getting. But the scope of work is in the documents that we have.
okay. So we don't collect interest on that?
No.
Okay.
I guess I'd ask the obvious question, why is the price double to do the work?
I couldn't hear that.
Why is the price double for doing the work?
Chris, here, the figure increase, the figure is based on an estimate of projected collections in the future. So the projected number is not necessarily an exact number, and that is the basis of the estimate.
So if we come in, if we come in under our projected collections, do we pay less, or is there a guaranteed minimum for it?
If we come in under our projected estimate, that obviously if we don't collect as much, we will receive less.
I see. Well, no, I know we'll receive less, but do they collect less in a fee? Is the fee directly related to what they collect, or is there a minimum fee that is established regardless of whether, God forbid, we would close the beaches? Do they still collect a fee, no matter what?
I'm pretty sure the fee is based on the relationship between what is collected and the cost per. So if there is less, they will receive less. But I will,
So that means we
I will confirm that.
probably paid them less because half the beach was closed last year.
Oh, the beach was open. Beach was good. You were at the beach.
The parking spaces.
Oh, the parking spaces. Yeah, no, the parking spaces. The beach was open. Yeah. Well, that's very interesting.
But I would say we had a lot more violations last year. People were just not paying attention and were parking all over the place. So it was pretty crazy. So hopefully this year will go a little bit more smoothly.
We don't pay fees yet. We don't pay fees on the violations. Thank goodness. Okay. Further questions? Any other questions for Department of Natural and Cultural Resources?
Number 75?
Commissioners, Councilor Stevens has a question on number 75.
Okay, great.
Good morning, or good afternoon. So I realize that Canon was in a rush. There's a sense of urgency to meet industry standard CDC guidelines and the governor's task force reopening for the mountain. And I completely understand that. My only question is, you were negotiating and working with the Department of Admin Services, the Department of Justice, the Department of Information Technology, and the software vendor. Would another option have been to come to the governor and ask for an emergency meeting from the Executive Council?
Thank you for the question. As you noted, there are a lot of moving parts to this process, which means it took a little while to hammer out the necessary agreements and paperwork. Chris Marino, do you have any insight about how or when we would take something like this to a special request council meeting?
If the question is referring to a certain process, I will admit openly I'm a little unfamiliar with, that is to call a special session to discuss this matter ahead of time. If that were possible, it would be certainly something we'd be willing to do. I'm not familiar enough with the process to know if that was even an option or was it ever mentioned or proposed. So I guess I can't.
I wonder, Governor, is this an example of where we should have called a special executive council meeting?
Well, probably not a special meeting per se, but I don't know, would we ever bring, to be honest, I'm not sure. I mean, it's such a unique circumstance, but would bring something.
Pre-COVID, we might have been thinking about presenting this at a breakfast meeting. This, I think, would be a great example of giving a heads up about something like this. And I guess perhaps we should start thinking back to those days where we had that sort of opportunity and how we should get ahead of some of these more complicated items, Counselor. So in hindsight, maybe we should have done that. You're right, because this was complicated. We were rushing to get the mountains operating up to code, and we were working with a lot of state agencies to hammer it down.
And I'd just like to add, you have a statement in here, with no alternative other than to delay, you're stuck in a very difficult spot with having to be ready to roll on December 12th. So that's why I'm throwing that option out there. But again, you guys did a tremendous job to get up and running under these circumstances.
Well, thank you, and please note that if any of you are fans of spring skiing, I would suggest you run, don't walk to the nearest ski mountain in New Hampshire, because it's fantastic this spring.
But don't run in ski boots. That's a little bit. Okay, further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, bear with me here, of items 67 through 77 from DNCR, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, those items are approved. I now ask for a motion on agenda items 78 through 85 from the Department of Environmental Services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the items from DES are approved. I now ask for a motion on agenda items 86 through 89 from the Department of Education.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on these items? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor of these items, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are approved. We do have one table item from the Department of Education. Is there a motion? I'd ask for an interest on a motion to remove table item 54 from the table.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of removing item 54 from the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, the item is removed from the table. Could I now have a motion to adopt agenda item 54?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Commissioner, is the commissioner available?
Yep.
It's right there.
Morning, Commissioner. How are you?
Frank Gabriel, Commissioner of Education.
We talked about, okay.
Oh, please.
Yeah, we talked about the fact that the initial estimate of documents was 100% under the actual number of documents that need to be digitalized. And can you tell us what efforts you've made to try and secure a better price, given that the economies of scale would have led one to believe that you would have gotten a better price if you had known about the actual number of documents at the outset?
So it's unclear, actually, that had we done a better job estimating the number of documents, we would have gotten a better price. In fact, if you look at the bids that we received, we paid a price of 5 cents per document that was scanned. And all of the other bids came in at 8 cents or 10 cents. So we received a favorable rate. In addition, because of the underestimation of the number of documents, it required the vendor, who is not offshore, but a domestic vendor, to make 2 trips, and they did not charge us for the second trip to pick up the documents. And as well, in the extension of the scope, we secured an additional $562 reduction in the contract price to be able to do that. So we feel like we did get a good deal, and we now have a better understanding of how to better estimate the number of documents. Hopefully, this is the kind of exercise that you don't go through regularly, where you archive, decades worth of documentation and records. So I think there was, it was the first time through the process. I think everybody in our agency applied diligence in terms of trying, if there's a methodology, they tried to be logical in terms of how they estimated it, but it turned out to be wrong.
Thank you for the additional information. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Okay, with that, all in favor of adopting formally tabled item 54 from the Department of Education, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And item 54 is adopted. Going back to our regular agenda, I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 90 through 96 from the Department of Safety. So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. Any discussion on any of these items? Councilor Stevens.
Commissioner, in regards to item number 90, my question is, drug driving is a horrific problem here in the state. And do we have a drug recognition expert? I mean, the testing is challenging for marijuana, for example, making that determination that somebody is using illicit drugs. I mean, the process for doing so.
Sure, that's a great question. Bob Quinn, Commissioner of Safety, good morning, council members. The DRE, drug recognition experts, we do have them on the state police. I want to say 20 plus, I can give you the exact number. It's actually run the DRE program. Chris Hutchins from Liquor kind of oversees it. But over the past years, we've done a great job expanding that for the drug-impaired drivers. We had a mantra, no DRE call, although unanswered. So if there is a DRE call, if somebody's arrested for driving under the influence and they test 00 on the breathalyzer and they agree to further testing, we will get a DRE officer there for whatever it is. So more to do, more training, but we do have a program in place now that if there is somebody who's suspected of driving under the influence of drugs, that we will have a drug recognition expert respond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Ken?
Just contract 95. I see, Commissioner, this is a sole source contract, and this is, I believe we're talking about the Astro P25 VHF digital conventional radio system and dispatch consoles. So this is kind of a Motorola contract, and it seems as though we've worked with Motorola before with kind of building out our system throughout the state, throughout our dispatch centers. And I'm just wondering, just for practical purposes, when we did that original contract, why didn't we factor in maintenance and equipment upgrades with that contract?
Well, that's a good question. That contract, and this is the statewide radio network. So this is going through the Division of Emergency Services and Communications, and they took this over the maintenance of it, and they looked just over the next 8 years of 40 sites, all the upgrades, the IT, so that's why it was the contract with them. So originally, and this has happened over the past several years, that we've replaced and increased. I want to say the original cost of the P25 system was $6.2 million maybe. So I can't answer that question as to why there wasn't a maintenance part of that at that point, but Steve LeBoy, Director of Administration.
Morning, Governor. Councilor Steve LeBoy, Director of Administration. The original upgrade project you're referring to was a capital project. Typically, with a capital project, we don't build in maintenance, ongoing maintenance and support into the cost. It's the initial infrastructure upgrades, and then those are additional operating costs we would be responsible for budgeting for and paying moving forward. So that's why this wasn't a component of that. In some cases, depending on the price of the capital project, we can work in a small, maybe 1 year piece of maintenance, but typically we don't commingle maintenance with capital infrastructure.
And I know when I go into the Staples and buy a computer, they'll always, offer me a maintenance plan and all these types of plans, so apparently that's not how we did the mobile contract. So, okay, I appreciate that answer.
Sure, thank you.
Further discussion on any of these items? Okay, thank you very much. All in favor of items 90 through 96 from the Department of Safety, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items are approved. There are three different Department of Justice items. We're going to take them separately as two of them do pertain to a request for a pardon hearing. So I'm first going to ask for a motion on item 97 from the Department of Justice, authorization for a pardon hearing for Scott Truitt. Is there a motion? You can move to deny is fine too.
Yeah, motion to deny.
So we have a motion to deny and a second. Any discussion on this item?
Just discussion, Governor. So when a request comes in, it's not necessarily for a pardon itself, it's really for a pardon hearing.
That's right.
So that we would set up a hearing process for that individual to say, what it is that they think, they should receive a pardon. I did speak to this individual. I think he's from Vermont, and the incident took place in Lebanon many years ago. The only thing that I found unique about this case was that he did assault a police officer. That did not result in injury of the police officer. As a result, he was thrown and incarcerated for over a year because of that assault. And I think the individual's led an exemplary life since then, and done a lot of volunteer work. I don't think it kind of detracts from the fact of what took place. And we protect law enforcement. I think we need to do that. But I think, from my viewpoint, he probably should continue to approach the court system to try to get it expunged. Because I think we'd be sending a wrong signal to law enforcement.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item 97? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to deny the petition request. All in favor of denying the pardon hearing request under item 97, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, the petition request is denied. I now ask for a motion on agenda item 98, the consideration of a petition request for Kelly Lynch. We have a motion to deny and a second. Any discussion on this item?
Just real quick, if there was anyone that we should move to deny, it's this one. You read the text and she sold, according to the text, there hundreds of thousands of dollars. She got a very light sentence. It sounds like maybe she has some mental health problems, but that doesn't excuse what she did, and I certainly could not support or commutation, actually, which is asking.
Sure. So we have any further discussion? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of denying the pardon request of Kelly Lynch under item 98, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the petition for a pardon hearing is denied for item 98. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items. I'm sorry, is there? Oh, there's a. Sorry, I'm missing my numbers here. To adopt agenda items 99 and 100 from the Department of Justice.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. Any discussion on either item 99 or item 100? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of these two items, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The items are approved. I now ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 101 from the Office of the Child Advocate.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 101 is approved. I now ask for motion to adopt agenda items 102 through 107 from the Department of Administrative Services.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Gattez?
Thank you, Governor. 104, where is that charging station going to be?
The new steam plant that's on the corner, sort of next to the police station, diagonal from the back side of it, where there's 30 or 40 spots that currently go in, like your uses. It's essentially part of the Concord Steam. It's part of the Concord Steam project. It's part of the replacement of Concord Steam project. One of the mitigating things we agreed to was an electric charging station. So it's on the back side of that little brick building.
Who's going to be authorized to use it?
During the day, people who can park there, but there's a protocol for electric vehicles essentially. People have electric cars.
How do they pay?
I believe via credit card. It's like
Was this
we
part
get reimbursed for the electricity. The company does the entire thing. There are two basic ways you can do charging stations, right? The one is where we pay for the infrastructure. Think of it as a gas station paying for the pumps, and we own everything. And then we just keep it up and we maintain it and we replace it as time comes. The other way is where you essentially lease it out or farm it out to the company that's leasing. They own it. With this particular technology, the technology is changing a lot and fairly quickly. It's not like you can have a 30-year-old pump. They're electric charging stations. And we don't have somebody. I don't have an electric charging station guy on staff. They can just do these two. So it basically shifts all the risk onto that company.
If I may, was this part of the agreement in closing Concord Steam, or part of the?
It was part of when we were during discussions and before my time and your time, frankly, 15 and 16. There was a lot of discussion about what are you going to move to. What are you going to, and we're doing, mostly gas. And at one point, there were people like, what kind of solar are you doing? What kind of sort of renewable resources? And one of the things we said is, well, the legislatures for a long time wanted a charging station. We looked at the Store Street garage, which would be a nightmare because you just have pieces of concrete falling on all the time. And so we quit. It's not that bad.
He's in charge of administrative services.
The fact that I know that pieces of concrete are falling on
the details.
Let's take that away. Mitigation strategy. And this is essentially a twofer. They get the charging station they need for reps or staff. In addition to that, it's a
So it's not specifically to replace steam-powered cars?
no, but we can.
You never know.
It's be worth a lot of money.
Some of the legislators might still be driving around in their steam-powered cars. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Further discussion on any of these items? D, Department of Administrative Services. Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items 102 through 107 are approved. We've addressed our tabled items with the one exception. I believe Commissioner Hanks is in person and is now joining us. So I would begin by asking for a motion to remove previously tabled item 56 from the table. All in favor of removing item 56 from the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 56 is now removed from the table. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda item 56 to have the discussion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, sorry. And now we have a discussion. Any questions? Or I could turn over to the Commissioner to hopefully give us an update. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So first, I'd like to apologize that I wasn't here in person this morning. I was retired assistant commissioner. I've been pushing the timekeeping deployment that will happen on Friday, so we'll have a lot better information on overtime. And Councilor Glass, I was able to find some history for a dialogue where we at the time in 2018 were paying about $120, which was exorbitant. You did assist us. We did reach out to AMR, and the person from my chief pharmacist contacted was very confused, saying they don't sell it to the public, but they partner with Manchester Fire Department. So with all of that said, I just want to reinforce that the funding of the drug expense is primarily for the purchase and procurement of our medication-assisted treatment modules during incarceration. And the naloxone represents about 4.5%. the contract does not obligate who we buy the pharmaceuticals from. So I do make the commitment to you that I will continue to try to see what we can do with AMR and other opportunities to reduce the cost of naloxone. But the funding line, the $540,000, the majority is to make sure we continue to use these grant funds to pay for the pharmaceuticals we're prescribing every day for medication-assisted treatment and naloxone. And to Councilor Warrington's question, I did check with my Director of Medical and Forensic Services. We need to make another purchase soon, very soon, to be at low levels. But it doesn't obligate who we buy the naloxone to consider passing this today.
Can somebody call, Commissioner, if you can call Chris Stalos from AMR, who runs it, he will give you a clearer understanding. And his number is 494-5001.
I don't know if that should have gone out to.
That's all right.
Or it's not.
I did you when I did the last time, so I
You
apologize.
did. If you call him directly, I'm sure he'll tell you where you can buy it at their price, which is $37.50.
You know I like the lowest price.
Thank you.
I appreciate you all for giving me the time.
Sure.
Motion made.
So, Counselor?
I just want to say that this is such an important program. It reduces recidivism, and that will ultimately save the state, and save a lot of human pain and suffering. So, thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of item 56, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 56 is approved. That concludes our items for today. I think we'll go over the list. I think we have 3 items that we put on the table and then one more that we left on the table, but I'll make sure we circle back on all that. All right, Councilor Singh.
With respect to informational items,
Yes.
we have new COVID relief funds coming in form of the American Rescue Plan Act. The Governor and Council has continued to meet uninterrupted through the entire pandemic. With these new relief funds coming, can you commit that you would bring items to the council for approval as regular agenda items instead of as informational
Yeah,
items?
anything that isn't a crisis-critical item. In other words, things that would, the vast majority of the dollars that are going to be spent through this last $1.9 trillion stimulus package are not out of crisis or emergency. They're more stimulus funds, and yes, it would come through a legislative and governor and council process.
Thank you.
Governor, I had a call from Tim Beckert at the Verizon, not the Verizon, Southern New Hampshire University of Ryan, and he was asking me if there's any funding, because they haven't had a show since last March.
Yep, so the Performance Center funds that went out of the last CARES Act, somewhere in the $600,000-$700,000 range. I know they're still struggling a little bit. And my sense is the legislature will be looking at a lot of different opportunities there. What we're still drilling down with this new $1.9 trillion, there's two potential options. One is the $1.9 trillion that is coming in. That can be spent in 4 very specific pots for the most part. And so there's some flexibility there, but we're trying to figure out, we don't have all the guidance yet, so we really don't know if that could be spent. But there is CARES Act money that is being remitted back to the state. A lot of organizations took money and it turns out they had a good year, for lack of a better term. So there's some money coming back that could be operationalized for those types of opportunities.
But that's with the SBA, correct?
No, that's through Gopher. That would all be through Gopher. Yeah, we could kind of how we did our Main Street Relief Funds or the Performance Art Fund. We would
So
probably
you should call Taylor. He's still good.
Yeah, no, and we've talked. We know he's been calling a lot of folks, and it isn't just him, Tim. It's the folks at Meadowbrook and a lot of the other larger venues.
Now, what about the city of Manchester with the $44 million that they received? Is there any way that they could distribute any of those funds?
We think so. So those dollars, the way it will work is, our preliminary understanding is the state will take the state, city, and city, town, and county money at once, and then we pass through the dollars to the city, towns, and counties per the formula and the guidance of the federal government. We'll provide kind of 1 or 2 sheets that basically explain to everyone from the local selectmen in the smaller towns to the city alderman in Manchester, how the funds can be dispersed per the federal government guidelines. It still remains to be seen if they could do that, but if we could do it, my guess is they could do it as well. And just to be very clear, that's just of the $1.5 billion allocated to the state. There is somewhere between $1 and $1 billion plus on top of that will come to everything from direct federal programs through state HHS or direct federal programs for everything from child care to Head Start, all of those sorts of things. And again, there is I don't want to use the word disproportionate, but the vast majority of those dollars are directed to cities like Manchester.
Animal shelters?
I don't know if there's a section on animal shelters, but I'm sure Lisa English and I will dig through. We were going through that just this morning, and it's the amount of money on top of what we already know to state, city, and town is so incredibly immense. I don't know. I mean, $200 million just in rental relief, and then they added another $150 million on top of that. We had trouble spending $20 million last time. So a mortgage relief programs and child care and Head Start and pretty much every program, the arts communities, the humanities, everything under the sun is getting money here. And so we've been digging in and understanding all of that. So trust me, the final amount to Manchester will not be $44 million. It's going to be well north of that. And the final amount to pretty much every city and town, there's infrastructure money.
I was nudged this morning to ask about animal shelters. And there's only one other person that lives in my house that nudged would nudge me.
I don't know if they would qualify, but under the various different pieces of the bill, there's just so much money. The other, my own 2 cents of narrative here. The bill, if you read it, doesn't say, here's the homeless pot and how to spend it. Here's the education pot and how to spend it. There's money here on page 3, page 75, page 154, and page 295 that all deal with housing. There's no organization. It's really, really complicated stuff. So we're spending a lot of time, Taylor and folks on my staff are spending a lot of time digging through, trying to compartmentalize all of these opportunities. The time frame for all of these pots of money is also very different. The state, city, and town money will likely come in 2 chunks. Likely. This is not guaranteed. 50% this year, 50% next year. Some of the capital and infrastructure money has almost no time limit on it. The $122 million the state will get for capital could be spent potentially indefinitely.
So that means exit 44 can get done?
What's that?
Exit 40,
4A.
can get done?
And then we have $3 to $4 trillion coming for infrastructure on top of that. So money is not going to be the problem. Hopefully getting Washington to give us flexibility so that the citizens of the state will have a say in how this money gets spent. That is what we're really fighting for. That it's not just a one-size-fits-all top-down approach. We'll see. And I don't know if the next infrastructure bill gets passed, but it'll be it's just so much money. It's unbelievable. And I feel terrible for all of the future generations that are going to have to pay for this for a long, long time.
So Kevin, you mentioned childcare. So I'm going to host the next meeting and I'd like to have a discussion about childcare. I gave each counselor and yourself a discussion sheet on early learning in New Hampshire. But the workforce in New Hampshire is very dependent on childcare. And that could lead us out of this kind of economic downturn and upturn. And sometimes we kind of overlook that, but New Hampshire's done a really good job. We've only lost 6% of our child care centers, where they predicted at the federal level we're going to lose 50% of them. So there's a saying called, you probably heard, the cliff effect, where basically, you have a young woman who is going into the workforce, but all of a sudden falls off the cliff because she's de-incentivized, better the family to stay on TANF or to stay on the social service programs, that in essence takes her out of the workforce. And so we have to work with our state agencies. Employment Security needs to promote child care professionals. That's big. We need to work with Taylor Caswell in making sure there's more resources put into child care, and that from a business standpoint, that our business community helps out with child care. The university system has to promote these programs. We have to re-energize the CTE programs. when it comes to high school programs to get them back in. So there's a lot of work to be done in childcare here in New Hampshire. And so I'm hoping that we'll have a big discussion. We'll talk about budgets. We'll talk about the current condition of childcare in the state of New Hampshire. But I'm very, who am I to talk about childcare? My kids are, they're in high school and in college. But today's workforce needs to have a childcare option so they can stay in the workforce. And with a low unemployment, with a lack of, workers in our state, and being an older state, we need to provide that young force with all the opportunities for childcare so that they can be a productive member beyond, just staying at home, being a productive member within the workforce. So if I'm pounding that, I heard the key operative word childcare, and so they wanted me to just give you all kind of a heads up that next meeting we'll be talking about childcare.
Okay, great. Councilor Wheeler.
Governor, I'd just like to take a minute and thank the counselors and the staff and the commissioners and everybody for their thoughts and prayers and well wishes and cards, etc., texts before my surgery, during the surgery, and during my recovery. Thank you very much. It's really good to know we've got a group of people that really care.
Yeah. Well, you look good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When I saw you walk in, I was looking at my window. I said, man,
Looks there. Looks there.
that's committed. Committed. That's great. That's great. Well, we're just glad you're on the mend. For sure. Okay. Anything else to come before the council? All right. With that, we will conclude this meeting, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.